big rooster on the front.
I call to order the Etna Township regular Board of Trustees meeting here on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Present.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mrs. McKee?
Here.
Doris, would you please lead us in the invocation, please? Thank you.
Testing. Testing. If you would all bow your heads, thank you, God, for bringing us here together, this Etna Township, this Etna community, our Etna trustees, and everybody here. We ask for civility in our meetings and peace and solutions to everything and anything that is addressed. We ask for special blessings for those who lead us here today and for everybody who is here who makes a difference in our world. In God's name we pray, amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to move to amend the agenda to add an item to old business B, the healthcare rates. There's just been a slight change and we need to address that.
Any further discussion? Roll
Well,
call.
don't we need a second for the motion to amend?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the May 7th?
Don't we have to approve the agenda as amended?
Oh, I'm sorry, on the amendment. We've adopted the amendment. Thank you. And now on the main motion, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from the May 7th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
I'll go ahead and second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Any discussion on the minutes?
No?
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
Very good. Now's the time for public comments. If anyone would like to come forward, please state your name and your address. Come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. I'll give you a warning when you have 1 minute left, and try to stay within the 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The Etna Township here, if you look at the cover here.
Would you state your name, sir?
My name is
And address?
John Hanson.
Yes.
I live at 51 Ridgewood Drive in Etna, Ohio. And I wanted to talk about the high cost of toxic leadership and taxpayer-funded bullying in Etna Township. We cannot talk ourselves out of the position we have behaved ourselves into. I'm going to skip through some of this because if you go to citizensofetna.com, the first post, you'll see one recorded without interruptions. And Etna Township has bigger problems than just Trustee Evans. Specifically, the problem is toxic leadership enabled by President Burkholder. And the cost is more than just the things you see on this front page here. On the front page, we have the lawsuits, other inbound lawsuits, $80,000 that Evans paid for bullying, and with your taxpayer money, and the systematic destruction of Etna's culture. The thing that we have to understand is we get the culture that we practice, permit, and promote. And what we're promoting right now is Gary is the so-called leader, and it's all an Evans-run type situation. Every meeting, the 5 dimensions of toxic leadership are at play. Self-promotion, abusive supervision, unpredictability, narcissism, authoritarian leadership. Narcissism is the number one thing people talk to me about when they talk about Trustee Evans. Mr. Evans, according to the existing research,
You have
could
1
be-
minute. You have 1 minute.
All right, let's just skip down here. Like I said, this is all available. Tonight, let's talk about the TPA. This is the 3rd time that Mr. Evans has tried to push this through. There are 3 legal opinions out there, and what you should know is it's an ODOT grant. It's not part of 629 money. And if it is Ohio grant money, then possibly it should return to the state of Ohio. On August 1st, 2023, Trustee Evans said the developer is only expecting 50,000 of the 100,000. So now, why all of a sudden is the push to give the 95 or the 100,000? It seems a little suspicious. If the money cannot be applied per the guidelines, then Ohio DPS grant compliance could help clarify this board's action. Help is available. We are asking the wrong questions. We should go to the logical end, and who will be looking at this after it's done, and go from there. Go to citizensofetna.com, click on the first post. There's a recording in its entirety uninterrupted.
Time's up, sir. Thank
Mr.
you.
President, he just mentioned that about 3 legal opinions. Has attorney-client privilege been shared with you?
Too much time on your hand.
You're the one that.
I'm not sure.
In public. You're going to read the minutes.
You're out of order, Mr. Hanson,
I understand.
and I appreciate it if you at least try to adhere to the rules for decorum. You've had your 3 minutes, and you can have another 2 minutes at the end of the meeting. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight? If so, state your name, come to the podium, state your name and your address.
John Kennard, 10785 Palmer Road. Start my clock. Where do you start? I'm concerned about the condition of the township. Since the first of the year, which almost 6 months into it, we don't have a secretary, we don't have a zoning inspector, we don't have an administrator. We have hired out all these jobs to outside sources. We spent over $18,000 to get a colored brochure to advertise for an administrator. They could have done that a lot cheaper than $18,000. You would have thought they would have had a list of potential resident or people to do the job, but no, let's farm it out. They are paying to have records digitized that are probably outdated, don't need digitized. At that time, 6 months ago, we had an administrator full-time, we had a secretary full-time, we had a zoning guy in full-time. They could have bought a software and a scanner and done the same thing with the digital records that they're doing now. They're paying $18,000 for. Concerned about spending. Again, the way they're spending money, it's like there is an open checkbook, and Mr. Evans knows how to use that. They've spent, what, 500,000, they want to spend over $500,000 on this park out here that probably 98% of the residents don't use because it's too close to the road. You can't let your child run loose or your pet. They'll run out on the major highway now. It's 310 major. They got to spend $400,000 for a driveway just to get to the new park. That's before we even start using the new park. I heard at one time it was $600,000 to get water and sewer to the new park. Is all this valuable to us? I don't think so. The zoning committee, zoning inspector, We've got a car lot right down here on 310 where Palmer Dead End's going east.
1 minute.
He's got 5 acres that he bought for a car lot, zoned as a car lot. It's a salvage yard. There's cars down there with no hoods, no grills, no doors, seats in the back of in the bed of the truck. If you got a car down there and all the tires are up, you got a bonus buy. But, I mean, it's an eyesore for our township, and it's just like, no big deal. Let's just keep spending money. Another question, I'm gonna run out of time. How many people feel safe in this building? Raise your hand. Mr. Evans puts on the Facebook that he doesn't feel safe in this building because there's no security camera. We just gotta get them security.
10 seconds.
So that he can watch TV at home, and spy on the township. Is my time up?
Yes, it
I
is.
got carried away, I guess.
No, you're fine. There you go. Thank you.
I still got a minute?
Nope. Good try.
I would just like,
Good try.
I would like to ask the question is, why residents can't talk to the trustees? Just have a conversation. In these meetings, we have these meetings like this. Why can't we just have an open forum where we talk back and forth and have questions, just saying, you're limited.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you.
Good idea.
Anyone else would like to speak at this time? Just feel free to come forward, and we will have 2 minutes at the end of the meeting as well if you have some comments or questions at that time. Thank you. Road Department? Oh, I'm sorry.
Judy Kackmeyer, 29 Roma Court. I only have one comment to make to Mr. Kennard, and that is the 3 people resigned. They were not fired. That is their right to work or not work. And so to put it on anyone else is really kind of petty. They resigned.
They resigned because they didn't like the Evans.
You're out of order, Mr. Kennard. I will ask you that if you can't control yourself, you're welcome to leave the building. And I want to be as liberal as possible to let people have community comments. But you're not going to disrespect this board. Anyone else like to speak at this time? Better check in case anybody else. Thank you. Okay, Road Department. Mr. Evans, I think you have some things you've been talking to our road supervisor, Mr. Coakley. Is there anything you'd like to comment on?
Well, I think we
project?
still a concern is the employee handbook and the union agreement. Again, there's disparities within it, which is causing some issues, especially vacation, stuff like that. I know the board directed me to contact Ben Albrecht. He never contacted me, and I've seen email where you guys are meeting and making some changes with that. I think any changes need to be made with the input of the full board fiscal officer and that, because the last fiscal officer was excluded from that, and we need to make sure we're serving those guys, and especially with vacation, sick days, and all that. And a lot of them are at their 1 year they need performance evaluations. So just want to remind you of that. And then tomorrow we're going to be meeting with Dominic from Strasser regarding some road maintenance. So Bob and I are going to go around with him and discuss that, so that we don't just do just let the roads fail and then replace. It's more economical to do some maintenance in between to extend the life. But as far as the road paving, we've got that later in the business, later in the agenda, so I'll just wait on that. The only other thing with the roads too is we need equipment replaced. I've been talking about new trucks for 2 years now, and those have been kind of stalled. There is a long lead time on equipment, up to a year or more. So I think we really need to focus in on that and determine what we're going to do, because it's going to be here where we really need them. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the handbook. I did meet with Mr. Albrecht, but that was mainly to start the process, and he was going to look at the handbook at some of the deficiencies, and of course, some of the things. I did talk about the vacation and how we accrue sick time. But the last email I sent to him, he said there was going to be a draft, if not this week, if I recall, possibly next week. And I indicated that he should forward that to you as well, since you had been working on that. So as far as those things, he should share that with you. All three trustees will look at those changes and those drafts, including the fiscal officer. So I know that the fiscal officer was excluded previously, but our fiscal officer, who couldn't make it tonight, will definitely be included on that. So I did ask him to copy you on that, so you should be getting that information as
And
well.
one question on that, if we're not directing him initially of what to change in that, he's the one that created it with Ms. McKee. I'm concerned, what is he going to change that he previously recommended? So I think we really need to talk about what the deficiencies are, and then he'd create the work instead of just having hours in it and come to us and say, no, this is what's wrong.
I don't think that's the methodology. Do you have a list of what since you've reviewed it under the previous board, do you have a list of the deficiencies you'd like him to take a look at? I know I mentioned that this idea of accruing vacation in 1 year and not taking it to the next year, I'd like to see that revised, but we also have to be, I guess, cognizant, will the Uniform Accounting Network, which is the township's accounting network, will it accommodate that change to where you earn vacation throughout the year? Likewise, I don't feel that it's fair to hire an employee and say they can't take any vacation for an entire year, that they have to accrue that. That's non-competitive, and those are the kinds of general conversations I had with Mr. Albrecht and his assistant. So my request, I guess, Mr. Evans, is if you have a list of those deficiencies, same to you, Ms. McKee, things you'd like to see changed in that draft. So when that draft comes out, let's distribute it to the board and also to the fiscal officer, and then mark up anything. I know I think there were some deficiencies before I took this seat that were mentioned that had been missed, and of course, this will actually tie into the union negotiations, which, is that this year or next year?
That's next year, but I think we need to address it because, again, it was passed in violation of the Open Meetings Act, and I had no input, Julie had no input. So I think instead of, somebody could sue and block it. I think we should address that now, and issues came up during some disciplinary things, but one of the main things is the vacation, because the employees earn vacation a week at 6 months, 2 weeks at a year. You can't take vacation until a year, but vacation is not given to them until January 1st.
Correct.
So we've got some that have hit a year now, and the way it's written would not get any vacation until 2025. And those are the things that I think we need to address sooner or later, because we've got some on the road crew that do want to take some vacation after, they've been working here a year without sick days, so it's an immediate concern.
Would you suggest we have a work session on this?
I think if we send Albrecht all the information, like I said, I was just concerned. I had reached out to him before and got no response. So as long as he's going to be receptive to the change requests, I think maybe then afterwards we can have a work session.
I think I copied you on that email. Did you see it where I said did you get a draft to you?
I did.
Okay, very good. We had a meeting on Pike Street talking about street lights on the improvement that's going to take place in April of 2026. We also talked about the planting of trees. That meeting included MKSK. I thought it was very productive. They're going to make some recommendations, but those recommendations will come to the full board. I think it's important. I'm glad that we moved forward with this approach, because the improvement of Pike Street is also going to affect High Point Park over here. It might affect some of the parking. The other aspect of it is the multi-use path, which is coming from State Route 310, but will also run on this north side of Pike Street. And then how does it tie into the west side of Pike Street? Because Phase 2 of Pike Street was going to be about improving Pike Street going west to US 40. So that's where this planning ahead of time so that we can tie all those sidewalks and all those multi-use paths together and how they're incorporated into the park. One clarification, since we're talking about the park, we've spent money on the design and the proposal to submit to the state capital budget, which I've mentioned at numerous meetings. So those are the expenses we spent to date. But that request is for grant money, and then the township, if awarded, we would have to come up with the second half of that. So I think it's a misstatement to say that we're actually have or going to spend $500,000. We may not even get the grant, so then we'll go a different route at that time.
Can I add one quick thing?
Absolutely.
Just to correct what was said earlier, that $600,000 for sewer and water for the new park, I don't know where that came from. We don't need sewer and water there, at least with the current design, or not, I guess, design, but anticipation of it. So that's just false.
Maybe just have a Main Street.
Mr. Kennard?
Mr. Kennard, please.
I've been answering this.
No.
Please, you are out of order.
Really?
He's a board member too, acting like this.
I'm trying to be as fair to, I'm trying to be, I will make a comment at that time, because I do have the experience of going to literally hundreds of meetings in villages and townships. There are some townships that have less business and less things going on, so there may be more of a back and forth. But there's so much going on in this community and in a lot of communities, other cities. There has to be a method of order so that we can get through the people's business. And quite frankly, it's been that way for years here. You get time at the beginning. We've implemented an opportunity to have comments afterwards. So I asked for the last time, Mr. Kennard, if you can't stay quiet during our business, then please leave. And if you're not going to leave, then I will have you escorted out. Do you understand, sir? Thank you. Mr. Evans, did you have something else you wanted to
No, sir.
comment on? Ms. McKee?
No, I think that we covered, yeah, that's it. I don't have anything.
I do have something on Mink Street as well. Getting a lot of calls on Mink Street and from residents, but I had a call today from an individual that works at Intel, and he travels from the Pickerington area up Mink Street, and he's talked about how that time has doubled considerably from 20-some minutes to like 40-some minutes to get to work. I've had businesses obviously on Mink Street. I've had residences on Mink Street, and other citizens that have talked about the traffic jams going both north and south. We know it's unsafe. The gentleman asked me if there are any funding proposals at this time. I do not know those proposals, but when they talk about, he's talked to Fairfield County Planning, and they're talking about maybe 50 to 60,000 increase in population in that area as a result of all kinds of growth out here, suppliers, Intel, and the like. So I want the community to know we're aware of that. I've had some brief conversations with Pataskla, but there's nothing definitive yet. But it's going to continue to be a problem. I have talked to Brian Bosch with District 5, which is out in Jacksontown, and he's indicated that they will have to study it again. There's been a request that we redo that timing so cars can make left-hand turns or right-hand turns at the light, that we increase that signalization so that you can move more traffic through there. He indicated, though, if we do that, then that'll throw off some of the sequencing on 40 as well. So we appreciate that input, but I think it's important to let the community know it's not a problem that's going to be quickly solved. And this is something that we can bring up at the Licking County Transportation Improvement District. There's still a lot of discussion how they're going to get from Intel down to 70, but I don't have anything definitive to report at this time unless someone else does.
Well, Mink Street, I've gotten several notifications about fatalities and car accidents at the corner of, well, at the intersection of 40 and Palmer. A lot of, and I know last year we had several, for sure. And it's not going to get better, it'll probably get worse. I know sometimes your roundabouts kind of slows the traffic and it kind of keeps people from sitting at intersections and going out, but at least continues the process of cars moving in a more safer direction. So maybe that's something we can talk about in the future, putting or even surveying, having a roundabout right there at that Mink and Palmer.
Right. And I know there's frustration on the speed limits because they change and everything, and I know we had a resident recently submit some information and that we should initiate a second study or a follow-up study, and that would come through the county engineer. But the county engineer has to do that. Unfortunately, townships, statutory townships like Etna have limited ability to lower speed limits, but that confusion on the speed limit certainly doesn't help anybody either or make it any safer, so.
Quick comment on
Go
that.
ahead.
There are quite a few accidents at 40 and or not 40, Mink and Palmer.
Right.
We did get additional signs across the street saying that cross traffic doesn't stop. I think that's the big thing there. Regarding the speed study, back when I was a resident, I pushed for that. I think we've had a couple. It shows that it's 50 miles an hour. The county does not make the change for 5 and under. So it's 55 right now. It's 45 in Patasko and 45 in Violet Township. I don't know if we could put any pressure or make a special request that at least we, reduce the sign, the speed to 50. And if they don't want to pay the cost, maybe we could pay the cost for the new signs. I think it would help there, but eventually I think a roundabout, as we in my community there and others have been pushing for, and that's something just kind of long-term planning.
Very good, thank you. Anything else? Zoning Department, we do have that Board of Zoning Appeals hearing, which is Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. We had to change that because we had a problem in meeting the notice requirement, which is 10 days prior to the hearing. So the Zoning Department's been working on that and many other things. I do want to, give an update on that. We have received several resumes for the zoning inspector. And so tonight we're going to have an executive session. No decisions will be made, but I want the full board to have an opportunity to at least have an initial discussion regarding the resumes that we have received to date. Likewise, getting quite a few violation, complaints from a variety, from very large projects where there are violations to very small ones as it deals with trash, junk vehicles, chickens, and quite frankly, the township is doing as best we can. It's a tremendous amount of phone calls and volume that come in every single day. And so these aren't necessarily addressed as timely as people would like, but we have part-time zoning inspector, a part-time secretary, and part-time trustees, and a part-time fiscal officer. So as I've said inside, I'm making a public service announcement. As I've said before, I appreciate the patience. I know people want things to be done exactly. Some of these code violations are much more complicated. Some are very simple. So ones that we need additional help, that's where the outside consultants will be very helpful, and they do have information on some of those. Not all the information yet. We do have 2 lawsuits currently, I should say, cases that are in common pleas court that deal with the Board of Zoning Appeals. One appeal filed by the township, one filed by the applicant. And so we are working as diligently as we can, and I compliment the staff. I work with the staff to try to field as much of that as possible and record that. But I want everyone to also understand that the capabilities of our zoning software in the past have not been fully utilized. And so we're in a great transition period, and that's something that we're working on as well. There's another module that we could purchase, but right now what we want to do is make certain that we get all of our zoning violations and all of our zoning applications into that system, much like what we're doing with Diligent, so that when these things pop up, we can deal with them more efficiently. Is there any other comments or questions regarding zoning?
There are, I'm a little frustrated with this, as well as a lot of residents, and I really don't think there is an excuse for it, because we've hired an outside zoning firm to deal with this. On a previous update, I was told that it was in progress. After I talked to them, it was never handed to them. We need to utilize them for these ongoing issues: Skinnell, Mink Street, Tollgate, all that, and they say they just need direction. This little stuff that they have been given, they haven't been given clear direction, clear expectations, timelines, and that they can handle the zoning violations. I mean, we've still got projects on Tollgate that don't have an occupancy permit and should be a violation, and it's not being written. Verbal warnings are still being given out instead of documenting it and having them do it. So, I mean, we hired that outside firm over 2 months ago, and they need to be engaged. Then regarding the zoning inspector, I have been disappointed that there has been a real push to fill that position. It's been open for over 4 months. We didn't approve to advertise it until February 20th, and it wasn't until late April that it was kind of put out there, but nowhere that was very accessible. I learned that just yesterday it went on Indeed, and it's another missed opportunity that this is a very important position that should have been filled before, or at least qualified applicants saw it. I mean, within 1 day, I've heard that we've already gotten more applications in. So again, we've got to treat this seriously. I don't think there's any excuse for not dealing with all these ongoing zoning and new zoning issues, because we have that firm. They can do whatever we want. We just have to direct them to do it. And that's been my frustration and others. I get calls every other day from residents that are just frustrated with this. So I think we really need to move forward. And then regarding the Board of Zoning Appeals, we missed that deadline for publication, but they submitted their application in April. We need to, when things are occurring, we can't wait till the last minute and miss things. But we also have the M1 public hearing that we missed the publication this morning to be able to have it at a regular meeting the 4th. Are we going to address that in this meeting? Because statutorily, we need to address it by, June 15th?
We have 30,
Otherwise it's
we have
fatal.
30 days, Mr. Evans.
From when it's
That's right.
when it's brought to us,
Well,
and
I'll
that is
address-
June 15th.
I will address that immediately, Mr. Evans. First of all, I disagree with you. We have new staff when it comes to dealing with the BZA. We lost a 20-year veteran that could keep these things on track. And that veteran left. And so our staff has been working, trying to learn the process, learn the procedures. And so you can criticize all you want, but I'm going to stand up for the staff on that. Mistakes do. Let me finish, Mr. Evans. And if you look at the Ohio Revised Code, because you talk about proper procedure, the Ohio Revised Code says that the Board of Trustees will set the hearing.
Yep.
Once it comes to us, we will set the hearing, the board, not Gary Burkholder, not Mark Evans. It's right there in 519. And Ms. McKee has a right to weigh in on the date that that hearing gets set. So before you start making accusations, I don't appreciate it. Because if you want to be part of the solution, then help us out on that. If some of these major violations, if you want to work with Mr. Latella and come in and put the information, that would be much appreciated. But with the limited staff that we have, some of these things take time. And one of the things I'm concerned about is when we push things through too quickly, like some of the things you have on the agenda tonight, mistakes get made. So some things take time to put the case together and to give it to them and have a discussion with them. So,
Well, I had asked that the prosecutor review it. I didn't get a response on that. She said that you didn't approve that, so she couldn't respond. But I've spoken to many other entities, and it's been, that's how we missed it on the zoning commission, that they brought it to the commission to do it, and that is not ORC, and that is not the policy. Just one other thing, that I've been supportive in helping the staff immensely with everything they need, every countless hours. So to say that I don't appreciate the staff or anything, I do. I'm frustrated that we don't have information being shared with staff or the board in a timely manner. We're missing dates. There's no reason that we should have missed that BZA and having to push that on there. And as far as the zoning firm, yes, it takes time to compile the information, but unless they're told start, there's nothing been started, I think, on Skinnell, on Tollgate, the Chingle, with the violations. I'm frustrated, and I hear it every other day from the residents.
that's fine. First of all, if you recall, Mr. Evans, now that you want to broach the subject, on the M1 rezoning, I made an amendment to have that initiated by the zoning commission so that there would be enough time. I made it, and it was voted down, and no big deal, so I supported moving forward with that amendment. But that was at the time that our experienced zoning clerk left, and even she and the chairwoman of that committee said, yes, let us initiate this, because some of that, there's that sensitive timing for that. So Mr. Evans, rather than constantly complaining about what doesn't get done, let's focus on what we need to do and continue to work together to move it forward. And you are incorrect. Our consultants do have information on Shingle, and they also have it on Skinnell.
Not when I talk to them.
Well, that's part of the problem, is because, first of all, I want to make it very clear. I don't own any of these problems or these violations or anything. That's a board responsibility. So if there's something you want to pitch in and forward it to Chingle and work with the zoning inspector, so be it. But that takes communication. But the emails I see are nothing but critical of staff and our boards and commissions and other board of trustees, and it's counterproductive. So that's all I've got to say.
No.
So let's work together and cooperatively to move these things forward. But with limited staff, there is only so much throughput. And let me finish. And employees cannot be spending time on 10 and 15 and 20 emails saying, well, what's going on? Why isn't this done? We need to do this. This needs to be this date. So if it comes to setting the date, if you want to set now, when do you want the hearing? And it can also be a work session.
Yeah.
As far as the M1, which I do support, I think we all voted for it, didn't we? So we're supportive of that, but we've got to follow proper procedure, Mr. Evans. And it clearly says in the Ohio Revised Code that you do not have the authority as a single board to do the public notice and set the date of the hearing. That's a board action. So
I wish you would contact the prosecutor, because
what date would you like, Mr.
They
Evans?
indicated-
Let's move on.
well, we're required to hear it by June 15th. So because we missed our regular meeting, we can't advertise it for the June 4th. We're going to have a special meeting.
Well, I think given the nature and the fact that that's a pretty significant text change, and I think there are individuals that might want to comment on that on both sides of that issue, and we want to give them full access, I would recommend that we have a special meeting and allocate time. And we may see, as I said at the previous meeting, we may see more of those special meetings in order to get all this throughput and all the various issues that we have. For example, the land use plan and some of the other projects we have, we're going to have some special meetings.
Well, I think it benefits the residents to hold business on regular meetings, because that's what they plan. So, but we'll have to deal with this now. I mean, again, we've got to do it. You need the notification period to be able to notice it properly, so it's definitely after June 4th. But again, statutorily, it can't be further than June 15th. Like the prosecutors indicated, that the mistakes made at the zoning commission were not fatal because they're not a legislative board.
I've read
So if
that,
we-
I've read that, Mr. Evans.
So
and
we can't make a mistake here.
This is the last time I want to hear any blame being cast on the zoning commission. They did the best they could with the information they had, and an error was made. People make mistakes all the time, so now let's move forward with it. Now, where'd you get the June 15th date?
It's 30 days after it's transmitted to the board. It was,
Right.
the letter was transmitted to the board. There was a spreadsheet I made so that there's no
I did.
miscommunication, and
I did, Mr. Evans. You
June
pushed-
15th is the date that we are statutorily required to have a public hearing on this.
Well, if, I read it too, and the zoning commission had up to 30 days to forward it to us.
And they forwarded it
And
to
you,
us.
well, you pushed to have it on the 15th, and that's why we're now up against this other deadline. That was a recommendation, so the staff and I got that letter out timely. It actually came out on the 16th. It is dated the 15th, but it probably wasn't transmitted till the next day. And so we have 30 days, so that's where you're coming up with the June 15th.
Correct.
So, Ms. McKee, do you have a date that might work for you?
Well,
Would the 12th?
12th is fine with me.
And take your time, because I don't want to...
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Mr. Evans?
12th works for me.
6 o'clock.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion to set that date for the M1 zoning hearing.
I'll second.
Was there a motion?
Oh, so moved then.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
And I want to thank my colleagues for making that date, and that'll be a 2-hour, well, it'll go as long as it has to, so we'll get that advertised, and we'll get that posted.
So we have the 12th at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, stormwater. I don't have a complete report, but I know that there's apparently there's been some progress made out at Half Farms, and I've had a resident call in and say they're, I guess, working on the ponds or the swales over there, but I don't have any details tonight because I haven't had a chance to call them back yet, but I intend to do so and have more of a report on that as well. Is there any other, as we said before, we got a lot of different stormwater problems here in the township. Is there anything else the other trustees are?
Yeah, we do need to the Smoke Road Pond. It was previously indicated that there should be an overflow pipe put in that was not put in last year, and it is still causing issues there. I think they added some dirt to the side next to the property owner, so that still needs to be addressed.
Which, yes, the pond off of Smoke Road.
Yes.
Is that the one by Mr. Adams' property? Bubba, wasn't there did we plant trees or do some additional things around that pond that we work with this?
Yeah, we planted a lot of trees. We got.
Yeah. And then what was the other solution besides putting those, was it some kind of drainage that was supposed to get moved around or changed or?
It was, we never went forward with it
Okay,
because we didn't know we had to look into what was allowed to do.
okay.
Mr. Evans, would Soil and Water be involved with that? I know.
Yes.
Before I was elected, I walked out there, and I know you've been out there. What exactly, and I know the resident has indicated it still hasn't been addressed. Do you know the details of what needs to be installed there?
No, that I was kept from it before, but I do know, I did see where there was a drainage pipe for an overflow into the ditch. There were some concerns about the flow and stoppage of culvert pipe, a couple properties down to be able to allow that flow to go out. But in my discussion with Soil and Water at that time, they did indicate that that would be one of the required fixes. So I don't know.
How do you suggest we proceed?
Who was from Soil and Water that was dealing with, was that Linda or was that Trustee?
I think both of them was involved in it at one time.
Did they give you a scope of work of this is all what's needed? And did they tell you that this culvert pipe needs to be put in, or?
They said we could go to the front and run it down, run it north on the ditch, or we could run it to the back of the property.
So if they said we can do it, why can't we just do it? To
Well-
solve the issue for the
Well, then,
residents.
Mr. Evans, I will ask that you follow up on that project, since you're aware of it, but work with Mr. Copley, but we definitely want to be working with the resident, but also with Soil and Water, because Soil and Water, we want to make sure within the scope and no violations. So I think, and again, you can report back to the board. I mean, once you get the plan and everything, they can execute on it, but
Can we, do we have the authority to install that?
Well, but-
Before, or do I have to bring it back to the board, because it's just the road crew?
I think you have the authority, but I think we have to, first of all, be operating within the right of way. So,
Right, but as long as it's approved by Soil and Water and it's what we think.
yeah,
Okay.
I think the board.
I just don't want to delay it any further, so if we can
Well,
act.
let me just say, it wasn't intentional. Anything else on Soil and Water?
The only thing is, I think we need to just address it kind of township-wide. We had the road evaluation done, and you can definitely tell where there's flooding issues, that the roads are just deteriorating. So it's not only frustration, I think, for the residents, but it's costing the township money. So if there's anything that we can do township-wide, I think we should.
Well, I think we need to talk to Soil and Water, because I know they've done some evaluations and everything, because I've inquired before about a township-wide stormwater management plan. And as we get more development, not only from new development, but also existing development needs to be looked at, because a lot of things have been done that didn't follow Soil and Water. Tiles, farm tiles and field tiles were broken when new construction went in, and it's just a compounding problem. So I don't have the answer today, but I think getting in with Soil and Water and say, what are we going to do as far as the long term? And with that, I'll say this, that and I've said it before, our job is not to hoard money here at the Board of Trustees. Our job is to invest that money into, one, planning for the future, but two, rectify the many issues that face the township, from transportation, from lack of zoning and other things. And so I'm fully committed to that. I believe my colleagues are committed to that too. So I don't mind people asking questions about the budget and how we're spending money, but you need to have your facts straight. And so there is a change of philosophy, and there's a change of policy here in Etna Township. And that's why I ran, and I think that's why my two colleagues ran, is it's time to have a more forward-looking approach with vision and proactive. Now, we don't have all the tools we need right now, and we don't have all the staff. But I took this time to say that because I think it needs to be clarified that the board is doing what we feel is in the best interest of all the residents. And that begins with proper planning, and that costs money. So I'm committed to continuing to invest in those kinds of projects in order to rectify some of these problems. Parks. As I said before, we won't have any response on High Point Park until possibly way after July 1st, after the biennium budget is approved, or at least the new biennium begins. The second thing has to do with the our new park ground. I don't have anything to report regarding the structure that we have secured on that property. It is secured now, but it doesn't have any heat or electricity. I presume the water is not turned on. I previously reported I met with Jim Jackowitz. I've confirmed with him the new park board members that are on that board. I also confirmed with the zoning department that all of the hard copy surveys. You could take a survey for the park either online or hard copy, and I confirmed with Mr. Latella that all of those hard copy results are also into the system. So now, Mr. Jackowitz, we don't have a meeting date, but he wants to go ahead and compile those into a presentation, convene another meeting with the park committee, and then move forward from there. So, but we followed up on that information that he wanted to know regarding new members and what that everything's been in the computer so he can do his analysis.
One thing to add on the parks, speaking with Mr. Copley, there's a water leak at the water fountain in the park. It appears that it's underground. So he's looking to research that. We're going to have to, I don't know what the cost's going to be or that, but it's probably going to get to dug up. Maybe we can reuse that water fountain. Or I've heard from several residents that they would like a water fountain that has a dog bowl at the bottom where dogs can get it. So if we do have to replace it, that's something we can.
I think that would be a worthwhile short-term investment, so if you want to bring that information to the board, so we can fix that, and I appreciate that.
And then with Memorial Day coming up, Mr. Copley has ordered some flags to put out, and also cemeteries and that, so that'll be out. I think they're coming tomorrow.
I think that's fantastic. A comment was made earlier about the road going back to the park off of 310. The reason there's no road there, and it's not been determined who's going to pay for it, is because when that development was approved, the road on the south side of that development, Drayton Hall, is only going to go so far back. So that was never negotiated by previous boards to extend that road all the way back to the park in order to gain entrance. So that'll be a long, an ongoing thing and another cost in developing that park. Whether we can get public monies for that, I'm not sure, but I wanted to clarify that. That's why that road is not going all the way back. And no commitment has been made by the township yet to pay for that road, because obviously they haven't even constructed the first section of it for the development. I also want to, if I'm going to talk about stormwater, one quick thing. And Mr. Evans, this is why a lot of time is being consumed, because everything we do at this board has to be followed up on by trustees or by staff. But an additional thing was there, apparently, we did successfully close on the Langle property, but now there was a question about the language regarding the maintenance of the retention pond, which is their pond, but on the township's park property. And we went through all this to protect the township to make sure there's proper maintenance, but there was some discussion or confusion between the developer and Licking County Planning Commission on what was going to happen there and what that language was going to be. So we're following up on that. Our law firm is following up on that. And there was some miscommunication, nobody's fault, between those two entities. But that's another open issue. Now, when it comes to the new storage there on 40, again, we had a walkthrough. I attended that walkthrough, and I don't know, it's maybe 6 weeks ago or anything. We've been waiting on a response. Soil and Water was there, Licking County was there, engineers. So one of the problems was they had 3 different final development plans for that. And the reason they did is they developed it in phases, and then each phase continued to change. There's some discussion whether they're required to put a multi-use path along 40, whether that was part of the original plan. And then also, they still haven't been able, am I correct? They haven't found the as-bills, right, Mr. Latella? So I'm as anxious as everybody else to get these things fixed and corrected, but we're relying on other agencies. That's not an excuse. And unfortunately, and no criticism of Licking County Planning, they're not even finding the information. So we're working with them, but we have to be patient. And I can report, because I go to the meetings, that there are over 60 subdivision violations within the county. And that's something else that Licking County is trying to deal with, that not everybody comes in and follows their plans. And so there's over 60 violations throughout the county, and as we know, we have several here in Etna Township as well. So that project, we're working on as well as one of the complaints.
Well, I think on that project too, we've got our zoning violations, the light, buffering and stuff like that, that hopefully we're addressing now, and that's something that the zoning firm can handle.
Well, we are, Mr. Evans, and that's why we have on the proposal here tonight is to go ahead and approve that, which means updating our buffering as well. But the zoning firm is to go ahead and contract with them to update our zoning resolution. Oh, we don't have that on tonight?
No, we do.
Okay. Well, that's.
We can deal with it at that time,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, well, let me explain something on buffering on storage one. The problem is our buffering says you plant deciduous trees so many feet apart. That has done nothing to help those residents over there block that light. So that's part of the problem is our own zoning. So we need to change that. And I'm told from the new owner of that property that they asked if they could plant evergreens, and they were told by our previous zoning inspector no. Now, I would have said I think a variance would have been appropriate in that, but it never came to the board. So that's the kind of stuff we're having to deal with. Fire district?
Yeah, I provided the written report. I won't go over it all, but we had a recent meeting. We changed to a new three-year agreement to save on fees for processing. You know, when somebody is taken by ambulance, their insurance pays. It was 6.5%, it's now 3.75. We approved 3 new hires. I mean, we're always growing. We're losing some people there. Again, there were 17 fires last month and 76 good intent calls. I posted these stats, and one of those was they rescued some ducks from a sewer grate. So it's one of those things that a lot of times you see online, and our guys actually had to do that. We're working through with the union. We've got the union grievance settled, and we've got our union contract this year, which we're going to start negotiations soon.
Anything else?
The only other thing, we had the open house at the station on Taylor Road, the new one. It was a great turnout. A lot of people, you know, were able to put their hands on the equipment in that, which, you know, everybody loves. And it's something that I think if anybody missed it and wants to go there, I think we could probably accommodate a tour or a walkthrough.
Very good. Item F, JED and JED-Z first quarter 2024 reports. Mr.
I'm at
McKee.
mine too.
Pardon?
Reports. Yeah, I didn't bring the reports with me.
Okay, do you want to have any comments about the meeting?
No, I
Just
don't.
general statements?
Know that we're moving forward. We are in good standing on all the boards. So there's one, I can't remember off the top of my head, that is still, we're kind of in a little red on that one, but the rest of them are moving forward. We're bringing money in, and we're in good shape. So.
Very good, and if you want to, I'll be happy to put that on the next agenda.
That would be good,
if you want to
yes, that way I'll
because
have
this meeting just happened last Friday, so we'll give you a little bit more time on that. Mr. Evans, you have something?
Yeah, and the JED and JED-Z's, it's kind of going to tie into the road department, the paving. We're going to plan on proposing the preservation treatment for Heritage Drive and Etna Parkway. And I know there were funds pledged up to a certain amount. All those weren't used, so I don't know what the possibility of using those for that treatment plan. I think you're looking at, I think it was like 20 or 30,000 for the roads there. So, Ms. McKee, do you know anything about that, or if that's a possibility?
It is a possibility. That was something we would have to bring to the board, and then we would take it into and discuss it to the jail.
That is correct, so.
Okay, and then the only other question on the judges, we're still paying the attorney fees.
Yes.
It's flowing through. Is there a reason that the boards just don't pay them themselves? Instead of we pay it, then they have to reimburse us? Because they're dispersing checks to all the entities. I think, wouldn't it make it a little more simplified, and we don't have to keep track of what's owed to us?
Well, the Z boards are paying him, they're paying it right out. They're just paying him.
Right, but the JED.
on the JED out of Reynoldsburg, I know they want to work on to try to move that to the same where they can just pay them directly.
Okay.
You mean on the Jersey, right, Mr. Evans?
Well, the JED, we've got those payments this time, and typically it's
Right.
when they first start, there's no funds, so
Right,
we
right.
do it and those
Yeah.
costs are paid back, but they've been well established and they have funds. I mean, if they have funds to pay out to the entities, they should be able to pay out those expenses.
Some of those JEDs do, and Ms. McKee is correct. Previous meetings, there wasn't enough in those to specific, although the legal fees aren't that much. So I think that would be a good cleanup thing. Ms. McKee is correct. And if you want to bring it at the next meeting on those two projects, that we can use those funds. We have to approve it here first, what the project is, and then take it to the JEDSI boards. And I actually asked the question on Friday, can we use money, as we have in the past, from JEDSI 2 to improve, I think it was improved on Heritage Drive. We had, what, 600,000 or 500,000 from JEDSI 2 and around 100 and some thousand from JEDSI 1. So if we put that, once you get those numbers together, we then have to take that to the JED and JEDSI boards and get that approved.
Okay. I didn't know if it was
Well, I
considered
think
still
that-
road
Well,
improvement and,
I don't think it's restricted to road. I think anything that improves the, within that JEDSI. The second thing, and in fact, Mr. Motter, who's the treasurer/secretary for the JEDSI, said the township, do you have any projects to bring forward? So I'll mention tonight, I don't have a plan, but I think we need some wayfinding signs for both Amazon, so that would be JEDSI 2, and also in JEDSI 1, as it affects Mink Street too, with these trucks not coming in off the Parkway. We've got one address changed on one building, although they still have the Mink Street address. But wayfinding signs, I think, for example, they're missing the turn into Amazon and going down to Mayflower. So we'd have to coordinate with the companies and also with probably US 40, so we'd have to talk to ODOT. But that project wouldn't be overly expensive, but I think that would be a good project also. And then on JEDSI 1, which doesn't have as much money, talking about the future, can any of those funds be used for improvements on Mink Street, which definitely is within the vicinity of the JEDSI 1. So we're beginning to get some ideas of how we can use this money, albeit though, I will say that the Amazon funds are down. They ebb and flow from quarter to quarter, but they're down several $100,000. So we're not exactly sure if that's economy related, or as someone else said, is the employment there dropping? Is it being moved to other facilities? So again, I think it's probably wise, and you brought it up before, Mr. Evans, it's probably something we need to investigate when it comes to planning for those long-term expenditures of that money. And keep in mind, we still owe money on 310, and we still owe money to, and we can give a more detailed report on that, but that's part of the JEDSIs. There's still money owed to Prologis as well. That doesn't come out of our distribution, that comes out of a builder improvement account to get those. Well, actually, yeah, there are some fees, I think, on 310 that the school still pays, and Etna Township has to pay as well on the 310 improvements.
there are.
Okay. I put item, is there anything else on that?
That's all.
That's fine. Item G, a work session for proposed development presentation. We've been contacted by several developers here in Etna Township regarding housing projects. Some of them have to do with economic incentives, some have to do with commercial properties, and they haven't hesitated meeting one-on-one, but I think it's more appropriate that if there are development proposals coming in, that they meet with the full board, either in an open session so that everyone kind of knows what's being proposed, or if it's an economic development incentive that they're requesting, they can request, according to the Ohio Revised Code, that we go into executive session to discuss that incentive. Not that a decision would be made. I got no response from the Montrose company that wanted to contact us, so they're not here tonight. I don't know if you've heard anything, Mr. Evans, but I did not have a conversation other than what they generally proposed, and I said, well, I responded, if you want to come in, I think it's more appropriate to meet with the full board.
The only thing I'd say on that is I have been contacted with them, but haven't had in-depth discussions. My concern is we haven't finished the comprehensive plan process, and I don't think we can discuss future development which would require rezoning without first addressing the comprehensive plan of what we want to do. I think, again, if we did entertain any new projects right now, we would be doing the same thing as Passport of, okay, we think it's right, let's do it, without the input of the community through a finished comprehensive plan. So I would not be for setting a work session to have them come in, because I've seen the plans, they've shared the information. I am very concerned about the density, especially at Refugee and 310 with the issues of that intersection there. I think it's like 28-foot lots. So again, I think the push should be the comprehensive plan, and then any development that we want to consider is based off of that. If we do it prior, we're just saying we're going to do whatever we want.
I think that makes sense. Do you have any comments, Ms. McKee, on that approach?
Familiar with Nate Green from the Montrose Group.
Right.
He's been here several times. I would like to see more work sessions because it's open, the public can be here and kind of get an idea where we're going and what we're trying to do. So I would like to see more work sessions with this development going on in the township. So that's where I would.
Well, I think we have some consensus that we want the work sessions, but in addition to that, I agree that the sooner we can go through the land use plan and finalize that, that is kind of the foundation. And then the next layer is the redoing the zoning, but I can't make June 10th, but what's the earliest on a work session? Mr. Linner, our consultant, said he couldn't make June 3rd. I don't know if there's something on the 6th or anything, but I'll check with him, but are there any dates that we could try to have at least a 2-hour work session on the comprehensive land use plan?
Are we making this the public meeting where he's presenting and we're having
Yes.
people come in and?
Yes. It's not a public hearing because we're not required, but it is a public meeting and he's going to make the presentation, and I think we can have a format, but and if we need a subsequent meeting then at the regular meeting where we actually make the decision, that's fine, but I think the sooner, I agree with all of you, the sooner we can get that process started, the better we are.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of concerns about the process that comp plan went through, and even the last draft is for the future use plan is the old plan. There's a lot of mistakes, and I'm really concerned. I think it's going to take more than one. I think it's going to take several, but we definitely need the input.
Were these mistakes, are you talking version 6?
Version 6, page I think 92.
Okay.
Future land use plan shows our current land use. There's, again, in the beginning I was working with Mr. Leonard, and there's that professional employment towards Kirkersville,
Right.
and he told me that should not be there, we shouldn't do it. That wasn't addressed, and he didn't really want to address it during the comp plan. The comp plan is supposed to be what's desired, not it's there. So there's a lot of, I think,
Mr. Evans,
issues.
we talked about that. I am aware is what I'm telling you. We talked about that as part of the land use committee, so I suggest that all of us make a list of things. There'll be more to add. I noticed there is a problem with the map too. Some of those crash maps and stuff are not very legible. So I'm certainly amenable to more than one meeting to get some of those things cleaned up. I will tell you though that members of the zoning commission spent a considerable amount of time. Not that they found everything, but they did a heck of a job identifying a whole list of things, and Mr. Olson actually met with Mr. Leonard to clean some of those up, but that doesn't mean that everything hasn't been cleaned. And I'm probably going to have some comments based on the example you just cited as well. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's fine.
So all of us, but
Yeah, so we're looking at, are you talking on Monday or Tuesday? Because you
Well,
mentioned,
I'm going to have to confirm, but I think the time has come. I may have to say to Ms. Leonard, this has gone on long enough.
Yeah.
Here's the dates we have. You're going to
you
have
should
to
have to work
somehow,
around us, yeah.
you're somehow going to have to
Yeah, we
accommodate.
paid you.
So I don't know if the 5th or the 6th, do we have
Of
anything on
June?
Or do you want to, we can go another week, which will give us more time, but, because I know it takes a lot to review that
Well,
plan.
I think we need time to be able to get people to come, because I think there were 5 people that came to the presentation at the zoning commission.
Right.
We need to get more engagement. The only way to do that is get it out to people.
Okay, you're going a little bit later then, like the 11th or, well, the 12th, we have the
Yeah.
zoning hearing. And I'm open to suggestions. I mean, it'll have to be, some of the off nights. But to your point, I agree, giving more time for more people and making sure there was some question whether the most current version was on Mr. Leonard's website, so.
Is there a preference on, do you think more people can attend on a Wednesday or a Thursday, or?
I don't know.
We got the 12th,
I mean,
or June 12th is already,
Wednesday, the 19th is Juneteenth, so that's a holiday.
that week I won't be in town.
17th work?
Yes.
Or Wednesdays are fine, I
I can-
think that's, but.
Yeah, the
if you-
17th is fine with me, a Monday. But starting on
Mr. Evans,
19th, I won't be available.
I don't currently have anything there, but that would give us more time to get it out.
I think that's a holiday too.
Monday?
Some,
17th?
Eid al-Adha.
Well, I'm not familiar with that one.
I just don't know if we want to take that into consideration.
June 17th, that's a Monday?
On the holiday?
Is that a holiday?
That
What holiday is that? June 17th?
It's Eid al-Adha. If we want to consider all residents.
Is there anything on the
that part of
20th? Do we have anyone meeting on the
I
20th?
can't be here on the 20th. The
Okay,
18th
that's
is
fine.
the-
Can we do it the 27th school board meeting? 26th,
That's fine.
Wednesday the 26th?
Mhm.
Oh, let's do that then. That should give us plenty of time to, and if you've already identified
6 p.m.
things, yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. Let's step forward.
And how are we going to advertise that, as an open house and work session?
Well, I think it's a work session, and then I think we need to talk about, if we're going to have an open house and some other, much like ODOT does.
Oh, you don't want an open house at that time?
It could be, but I think there has to be discussion among the board. I think there has to be more than just comments from the community. I think we
Right.
have to talk about the things we want to, so if you want to split it, and I think talk about some of the things we have first, and then maybe listen.
I'd like to hear from the public. Well, have a presentation,
Presentation,
hear from the public, we can discuss.
okay?
Because
That
get the
works.
input, get from Leonard.
Yep, that works. Have the presentation, open it up, take some questions and everything, and if we need a subsequent session at a regular meeting or something to bring our changes, because we do have the ability to change things, then we'll do that.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Glad we got that.
And is that something the zoning intern, I don't know what's been turned over to her, but that she can dive into that and give her opinion on for that date too? Maybe have her provide a report of what changes she might think are.
She is currently reviewing that, so
Okay.
I did task her with that. Very happy. As you know, we have a MORPC intern working for us now, so that's going well. There's some small grants I'd like to give to her, to give her not only some experience, but to help out staff as far as applying for some of these grants, and of course, we would review those. I was remiss in not mentioning, we did get that H2O chlorine grant, actually chloride grant that was applied for $32,000. And that money will be spent on a system to wash our vehicles so that that salt does not get out into the parking lot. And it's adequately taken care of. And then there's going to be some more technology to sense the temperature of the roads so we can determine whether we need to put down salt or not. And then I think there's some cutting blades and some other things. So the good news is we've been awarded that. I've been in touch with the Ohio EPA regarding that grant. I do have a question now. I've got a little bit of a sticking point. The Oaks ID, I don't know what that number is. I don't know if we've used it in years because they've got our old address. So I'm trying to find out. We have to update that information. And have you heard of that?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I'll have to try to track it because now I can, on the OneDrive, search for files, so I'll try to search that, but I might have already gotten that, so I'll double check, and if I do,
yeah, let me know,
send it to Holly.
But we've executed the contract, so the contract is back to Ohio EPA. We can't start doing anything till after June 1st, and then we submit the invoices and they reimburse us. And the Oaks idea is the Ohio Administrative Knowledge System, and that's how they manage contracts and disbursements, which you're probably very familiar with, having been at the state. So I wanted to bring that up, and I'm sorry I didn't do that under the road report.
And just while we're on that subject matter,
Go ahead.
we, how much money did you say we were awarded? That's the one Anita applied for.
That's correct.
Okay.
32,000 and change.
Okay, I didn't make my notes to that. That's good. So congratulations to Etna Township for getting that award. And there was one other township in Licking County, and we were one of the, out of the two, Bubba, is that?
I don't know how many applied in Licking County, but I know Harrison, they applied, they didn't get their full grant, but we.
Yeah, we did. So that's awesome.
They were a little surprised, weren't they, at the amount of our grant?
Yeah, the representative from Ohio EPA, Martha, said there was more. They were I guess it's a new program. They were pleased, but there were more applications than money, so I feel very fortunate. Okay, old business. Resolution for the 2024-26 ODOT grant reimbursement to TPA Group. Before we make a motion, Mr. Evans, I know you've done a lot of research on this. I did talk to the fiscal officer today, so I'll have some comments on that, but do you want to give us a brief overview? You did the research on it, and I know.
Well, we can't pass anything. I don't have a resolution. I don't have the agreement with that because again, I'd asked for permission and approval to, as you're the contact, I've got to get that. Didn't get it. I haven't heard back from Brody.
Approval for it?
To deal with the attorneys. You're the point person, so anybody else has to get, that's why the prosecutor won't respond. But I'd asked several times, I think we got to work on just getting better communication, and especially on these things to address it. But what I had, I talked to Mr. Vogel at ODOT.
Right.
Regarding this grant. Again, he sent information. The grant is for to reimburse actual costs. The township does not have those costs. The contractor does. So as our attorney stated, that they are, supposed to be reimbursed this. There was a prior conversation with another member at TPA that said, because the issue with this is typically there's an agreement, a grant agreement of how it's going to be dispersed, what fees are going to be held back for administrative purposes and that, and there was none on this. So at that time, the TPA representative was saying, well, we could take 50 and donate 50 to the township. That individual has changed, and now this individual submitted a request for the full amount, but after speaking with him, typically on grants like this and the 629 grants, there's a 5 to 6% holdback with the township for legal expenses and administrative. So they've agreed to a 5%, which would be $5,000 that the township retains. They would be reimbursed $95,000. However, before we did that, I wanted an agreement written up, and that was the request from to Bricker and Graydon. But again, it was kind of on hold until we got that approval, and also for that resolution to pay that. So until that approval is given, I don't think we can move forward. So hopefully you can give that approval.
You had an opinion. We had an opinion from Bricker Graydon that we should
Pay it.
pay it.
Correct.
But you're saying you have additional questions?
Right, and you were copied in on that because to pay it, I mean, we could just pay that full amount, but I negotiated with the developer to cover our legal costs, our administrative costs. So I got them to agree to $5,000. So instead of giving them the full $100,000, since there was no agreement, they're okay with the $95,000, but that agreement has to be drafted. It can be a simple agreement. Just
I'll be more than
stating
happy
that.
to talk to,
And you're copied in. I think there were 3 emails I sent requesting that.
okay, fine, but you did request a PO for $95,000 for tonight from the fiscal
In
officer,
anticipation of getting that approval and getting this handled,
correct?
because
Well,
this is,
I talked to the fiscal officer and she said we need do we have an invoice?
that would have been the agreement, because she can't make payments without the documentation. That's where
I
that
understand
agreement
that. That's
would have
right.
covered that.
Well,
Um,
and we also need a invoice.
And that was submitted, I believe, with their request for payment.
I don't know if it was $100,000, so I understand why we now need the agreement, so. I'll move, go ahead.
Can I-
Yep,
can I-
yep, absolutely.
I just wanted to say that 5%, it's not even really, we had Peter Griggs that was representing the township, and they could not find any legal obligation that we needed to pay this $95,000. But that 5%, we spent money with the Griggs firm, and now we're spending this other money to Grayson, Bricker and Grayson. And if TPA, if they feel that this money was needed, I mean, they're entitled to this fund, why didn't they have their attorney contact us? Instead, we are spending money to prove that we're going to give them this money back. I think we need to table it, go further into getting more information. If we can give the money back to the state, why not? Because we have to remember, if we pay them this money and we are not legally bound to do it, when we go into an audit next year, we don't have proof. Why did we give them this money? Like you mentioned, we need a purchase we need a, yeah.
Well, one of the reasons is, and I'm not trying to cast blame, but this is what happens when you don't have solid paperwork.
Yeah.
But I will say this, I'd rather not have it go back to ODOT. If we're obligated, I think reputation counts too. If we're dealing with the developer and the agreement is you build the infrastructure and we get a grant and we're going to compensate you for the actual construction costs, is that correct, Mr. Evans? Actual construction costs, not something you're going to do post-construction, then I think it's important. It's an honesty issue. If we're obligated, we need to do it.
And I'd just like to say that we don't need more. We have the information, we have the request. The administrator of this grant at ODOT states that they should be reimbursed. And say if we did send it back, because we couldn't keep it because it's for actual expenses, we didn't have any actual expenses.
Right.
So if we sent it back, the way these work in the area, say Tollgate Road, the developer's not paying that. We have a loan out,
Right.
and we're essentially paying it through there. This $100,000 grant will actually reduce the amount that is withdrawn from the, I think it's JED 2 there. So by reducing that balance due on that road construction loan, we will actually benefit in the future, because otherwise they'll get that money from the BIA account of JED 2,
what you're
one way or
saying.
the other,
Right.
but will just be out. So to send it back is,
But they couldn't apply for that post-construction, correct? Because the JED board has to approve an
Right.
improvement prior to it.
but no, these were for the
being
road costs, and like I
Right.
said, just like Tollgate, we've got a $2 million, I think Schuster Way is $2 million.
I see what you're saying.
Tollgate was like 1.5. What a lot of people don't understand is the developer's not paying for it. It's coming out of they're paying for it, but they're being reimbursed.
Yeah, they're paying up front, but then the money that
township.
comes in from the income tax that comes in is then used to reimburse them.
Or the grants or that. So this is actually reducing that balance, but again, they submitted the request, we have all the information. Our attorney says to pay it. The prior legal opinion was before they officially submitted with all the documentation. So it's a no-brainer. It's just we need that agreement to be able to, hold back that $5,000 for our costs, and we won't have more than $5,000 in costs, but we will if we keep dragging this out.
I'll deal with that then as far as clearing that up with the attorney. So I'll move to table Resolution 2024-026, the ODOT grant reimbursement to DPA. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Healthcare rates, item B under old business.
Yeah, we added that. There was an error made, and I'll take blame for it. I didn't, when we're filling out the fire form, when they're going through the rates,
Right.
it asked full-time, part-time. Well, this is supposed to be a part-time job. We're not required 40, but putting 40 to 60 hours in anyway. So the original proposal did not include myself. So when they reran it, they had the final proposal and made that correction. There was a slight increase. It's still a significant savings over the existing Anthem renewal. I think it's like $40,000 or $50,000 in savings. Plus, with this plan, there's a review at the end, and if there's not as much utilization, that we have the opportunity for a refund, but if there's more, there's no additional cost. So we're still saving quite a bit. So I just needed to make a motion to approve the updated rates with Etna Healthcare for 2024, starting June 1st, 2024.
Is there a motion?
That's the motion.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any questions? Thank you for that explanation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. New business. Zoning resolution update proposal, McBride Dale Clarion. Do you have that resolution, Mr. Evans, on your computer?
I do not have, I didn't make a resolution. This was your matter, so I didn't know. If you want the next numbering, it would be 28 for a resolution, or if you're passing by motion, or if you want to.
No. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-028 for contract services with McBride Dale Clarion not to exceed $75,000.
Do we have an actual resolution? I think resolutions have to be,
They don't necessarily have to be, but,
oh, they don't?
no, but you have to have a resolution number. If there is concern, I'm more than willing to table this since we don't have the land use plan done yet, but you do have the proposal, correct?
Well, if we're going to discuss, I'll second for
Discussion.
I sent that out a while back, but any questions?
Yeah, I think this is premature. It's going to take a lot of effort to administer it. They're going to need quite a bit of information from staff. We don't have a zoning inspector and other things. And I just think if the firm isn't being utilized for the zoning issues, we can't move on to something else. So I would not be for this at this time. I think we do have to update it, but after maybe the comp plan, and we get a zoning inspector.
The only comment I have is that, and now I'm fine with that, the only comment I have is that we have forwarded our current zoning resolution to them. And we'll get them, if they haven't received it. Now supposedly our zoning map has been updated according to Mr. Linner, and it's been sent to the county. So I think we need to check that as well. I do agree, I'm more than willing to table this because let's focus on that comp plan, but if there's any other items you think we need to forward to them at this time, this will be something, and I think you are correct, they will be working with staff here as well. So do you have any comments?
No?
The only thing I'd say on forwarding the resolutions that we have not been updated, I think, since 2020. And there's been a lot of changes made to Article 10, Article 9.
Yeah, you're talking about the text amendments?
Correct.
Yeah, so we've gotten the map amendments. Are you, and I'm not saying you know, but do you have any idea which text amendments haven't been?
All of them since 2020. We've got the PRCD changes. We've got the recent ones to all the sound, the noise, I think the accessory structures, I mean, it's a long list, and that's why on the website I put on there, because I think a lot of people were going to it expecting that to be the current stuff that I just put on there, that the below were not up to date.
I know the 2020, and so we'll check on those others. We'll double check on the map amendments and also on the text amendments.
Yeah, because even I think online the last it's shown is 2014. There's been a lot of rezonings.
You mean it our online or the county?
Our online, 2014. The one that's on the wall in the zoning office
Right,
is what's shown as the zoning
Our
map.
book was updated in 2020.
Correct.
Right.
So, but the text, like the various PMDDs, I don't think are in there, because those are actually zoning sections. There's, like I said, a long list.
Have you looked at the book, or you just? I'm just asking. Have you had a chance to go through?
Yeah, I've gone through, and that's where I was checking. Like
Okay.
again, we changed recently the removing the noise, and I think the sound or the lighting was changed. A few other things that weren't updated.
I may talk to the zoning commission and see if they can assist with that then. So I'll move to table zoning resolution, the update proposal 2024-028. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
table. 2024 road paving engineering assistance request.
Yes, let me just have those. And I met with Bob a couple times this week, last week. Here's one copy, and here's for Ms. McKee. There. Pavement management group evaluated all our roads. One of the things that we're trying to do now is put money into preservation to extend the road life. A lot of these roads have been being milled and filled after 8 years, after 10 years, and we should be getting a lot longer life out of our roads. So I've got, again, I said that meeting tomorrow with Dominic, with Strasser, that does microsurfacing, and that can help extend road life. But what I'm proposing for the engineering request, which the engineer will then give us an estimate that we can put out for bid, is there's 2 sections on Refugee Road from Summit to Mink and Columbia, the northern part of Columbia, just east of that, to 310. And then there's the section on Palmer Road from Tollgate to Linz. That's pretty bad. That was done in 2016. But like I said, some of these where they can't really be extended, we've got to go forward. I'm asking for separate estimates for all those, and then another one combined for both refugee. I spoke to Bill Lozier regarding any anticipated activity on Refugee Road up there, especially at 310. He said that previously, I think it was last year, the TID was directed to study that for changes. He said that's been dropped, pushed aside because the state is really taking the lead and they're doing 10-year projections and they're focusing more out east or doing like a direct connection on Mink. So he said that don't hold off on any of the improvements based on any of the future stuff. I think with the activity on that road, if we're going to do any, those would be it, and then focus our resources on the preservation, which includes the reclamite application, which we can deal with that. That's estimate of $74,000, and then with this micro surfacing and Cape Seal, which extends again the life of the road, and it's not the chip seal or anything like that. So it's aesthetically good, but functionally it helps extend it 5 to 8 years.
So this first is just
just to get a request.
From the county engineer.
Correct, and then we can put it out to bid.
So moved. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know those areas, and Refugee Road, in fact, Refugee Road going east of 310, there's that major development on the northeast corner, so that's going to impact us as well. And I believe that was one of the sections that I asked Morpsey to include on their long-term transportation improvement plan, because when you start thinking about, and this is years down the road, they do a plan for the next 25 years, but they revisit it every 4 years. And so when you think about it, when everything going on, smoke and everything, we need to be looking and planning now from 310. And of course, then we have from the Parkway, which is not being improved.
Yeah. Well, I know Refugee through smoke is graded good. It was installed in 2019, but that's where some of the ones that are in bad condition, you really can't bring them back, but that's where we're looking at, especially in the neighborhoods, of what can we do to extend the life of these. But this is a start.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Item C, Resolution 2024-027, Payment Technologies, Inc., 2024 Road Preservation.
That, I don't know, that, again, it was a request for an opinion from the prosecutor. She did not get the approval, so she did not give that.
When was that request made?
I believe it was yesterday.
Okay, well.
We just got the estimate for that, but all I need is a yes, and then she'll respond. This was just a quick question about the format, because there was a change in, prior it was $50,000 you would need a bid contract. ORC is now at $105,000. However, you can go through the cooperative buying program through the state, ODOT. So there's two different methods we could use, and I just want to make sure that we can use either one, or we use the proper one. I spoke to them. Their schedule is getting full, but they said that they would prefer to get it approved this meeting, but if not, next meeting would be kind of the cutoff time. So we can table it till then, but I just, again, need that yes. Mr. Evans can get that opinion.
Well, I did respond to the prosecutor. The prosecutor, I'm not exactly sure when she got it, but she said she was leaving today. So I know the importance of it, but that turnaround time. So I'm supportive of this. I've been to that preservation class as well. So I'm going to make a motion to table it so that we have it on the next agenda and get all the approvals and everything we need, because preservation, I believe, is the way to go to further the life of our roads. So I move to table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the one thing on that, again, the portion for Heritage and Etna Parkway, if Ms. McKee can, or can we make a motion to request the Jed Z or Jed's pay for that now to get it started?
Yeah,
Because-
we have to make the request, and then if they approve it, we can go ahead and,
Okay.
we're qualified to, so
Okay.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to request from the Jeds and Jed Z's for reimbursement of the Reclamite application on Heritage Drive and Etna Parkway.
So that'll be the proposal, correct? Second,
No,
I'll
the
second
proposal
the
also has Palmer, so it's only a portion of the proposal, but it's broken out on the proposal.
And the motion is to request,
Only the,
right.
At
But
the Parkway and
we'll present it to
Heritage.
the Jed and Jedzi for reimbursement
correct.
to get approval.
Yeah, because it does need it. There was
Oh, I know.
it was installed in a little colder weather. There's a problem with the density on it. So that's another reason I think starting next year, we got to start this process earlier. But
Yes.
if there's any area that needs this application, it's in that park.
Okay.
I'll second that. And any further discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Item D is a proposal for contract zoning inspector services. We are going to have an executive session tonight to look at some of the applications we've received, and we have received quite a lot. Some are qualified or may be qualified, some are not, but I am not asking for any action on this tonight. We have an individual that has a high level of expertise in this regard, and you only got, I think, I don't know if you got a copy of his proposal, but you didn't get it until this afternoon, so I'm not asking for any action, but I will put this on the agenda for consideration and ask that the trustees take a look at those qualifications. This would be a supplement. It's kind of a different situation, but given the level of expertise, I think this person would work well with McBride Dale and would also reduce some costs because the person would actually be in-house. And so I don't have anything else to comment on this time other than
When did you send that?
that should have come over this afternoon. I'm not sure, or was it in the packet?
It's in the packet.
Yeah.
It's,
I think we laid it on your desk, but I don't expect you to have any comments at this time.
So it's not as an employee, it's as a
It
contractor?
would be a contractor, and there's some extenuating circumstances which I can certainly explain at the next meeting, but a very qualified individual. So, other than that, fiscal officer report. The fiscal officer is not here tonight. And we will be going into executive session. We're good on time.
Do we want to do the bills and stuff?
Yeah, the fiscal officer, yeah. So I'll move to adopt resolution 2024-025 to approve purchase orders. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? I guess the one question is, so the 95,000 is not part of the purchase orders, correct?
I don't see it on here, so it should not be.
No, it is.
Where?
But she has the
Oh, I see it
wrong,
up there.
but she has the wrong name. It's AHS Etna, I think it's TPA.
Where's that?
Actually,
And in the purpose, it says 692 grant payback. It's actually ODOT.
it is AH. In the contract, those papers you sent over earlier, Mark, it should
But it
have
was
been-
sold, but it was sold.
See, that's the thing. This is in the contract.
And that's what I asked the attorney about.
Well, I
And to be
ask
in the agreement.
that I'll move to amend to remove the,
We're gonna table it, right, anyway? Yeah, we're gonna.
well, we're going to adopt the purchase orders, but we're going to amend it to remove that one from
Yes,
pre-approved.
correct.
And is there, with the 120,000, that's the Aetna insurance?
That's Etna insurance. She doesn't have, because most of the fees are paid to Etna, the insurer, from us for the HRA portion, but there's a very small administrative fee to Acrisure. I think it's only $25 a month to administer this. That I think she's gonna need to put on there, but I think the first bill isn't gonna be until June or July, so she's got time.
Hold on, well, you've got three of them here, so to Etna, so all three old?
Well, no, all three, well, because the insurance is broken up to administrative, secretary, officers and that, zoning and roads, because you can't pay, the road tax. can only pay for that.
Where you recorded according to the.
So that's why there's three there, but like I said, there should be one for that, and I had requested one for the, which we haven't passed it, the road preservation, the reclamite, so that next meeting, that'll have to be on there if we're moving forward with that.
That one's not on here, though.
It is not on here.
Okay.
It should have been, but yeah, it's not.
So the question is, which one? We're removing the 95,000?
Removing the 95,000.
There's a second to the amendment. I made the motion.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion, I will say the fiscal officer asked for the board to consider establishing possibly, because it's a debit card on the health reimbursement, correct?
On the HRA part?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the debit card, or if they reimburse directly, it comes out of the township checking.
Okay, well, she had a concern coming out of all of the township checking. She just wanted to suggest that we establish a separate account that monies would be drawn upon. And she just mentioned it this afternoon, so I don't have a lot more detail. I'm sure she'll explain, but she wanted me to at least mention it.
This was discussed with her as an option when we instituted it. But
Okay.
if she wants to make that change, that's fine.
Well, and I think that's some of the clarification. I just wanted to communicate what she wanted me to say to the board. So, so the three at the bottom then will be approved, correct, Mr.
Right.
Health Insurance? Roll call on the amendment, please, to remove the $95,000 to AHS Etna LLC.
Mr.
Sorry.
Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
And now is there, we have the main motion. Any further discussion on the approval of the purchase orders? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second.
I'll second for discussion.
Go ahead, Ms. McKee. Do you have any questions or comments?
The only thing I'd say is that we got that Ag Pro on there that was an immediate repair needed. It was $5,300. I know we've given the authority to have up to $5,000 for emergencies. I know the board president has another $1,000 per month. Without an administrator yet, I think we should maybe look at increasing the president's authority for unique situations in that. Otherwise, we'd have to call special meetings.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to consider that. I think we can do it at the next meeting. The batwing mower blew up on the shaft and everything, so it was really kind of an emergency, because if we didn't get it repaired, then we'd be behind on mowing the roads, and so the $5,000, and so I worked with the fiscal officer, but I think your point's well taken. That's the kind of thing you don't expect. But it's a lot of money. Back to something you said earlier, Mr. Evans, I agree. Looking at some of our options on our equipment, I know Mr. Copley has submitted some pricing and everything, but I think something else I'd like to see us explore is possible leasing options. I know some other townships are doing that, but I haven't gathered that information yet. But I'm glad you pointed that out on that expenditure. And did we got the U-line bill paid, is that correct?
It's on here.
No, I just got another notice.
Well, I
Today,
did too, and
60
that's
days.
why I asked about it, so.
Well, but obviously it hasn't been sent out.
Right, yeah, there it is, 4/10/64, so it's on there,
Right.
so we get that taken care of. Roll call, please. Or I'm sorry, do you have any?
No, yes, yeah.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
motion passes. No transfers at this time. Public comments, 2 minutes. We put that ahead of executive session because I know people don't want to necessarily sit around for a while. So does anyone like to speak at this time? State your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Ryan Davis, 8807 Watkins Road. Mr. Evans, the past couple of years, has frequently stated his dissatisfaction with the meeting minutes and how they reflect the meeting as conducted. I'd like to bring to the board's attention the notes for the meeting minutes for my public comments at the last meeting. They're very brief considering what was spoke on it. But what I'm actually more concerned with was earlier in the meeting when Mr. Evans said issues with the NCA, and that made the meeting minutes. I take offense to that. There's been no issues with the NCA. Maybe issues with how you would do it, but the board is more than satisfied. There's been no legal issues of any sort. We're doing just fine over there. Sorry. I also got an email from Mr. Evans, 12:31 on Sunday morning, requesting information about overdue balances. Well, if he would have talked to me, as two board members would be, I could have easily explained to him that the bank automatically charged us for having a zero balance since we opened the account before the first check was cashed. I went to the bank in Newark in August of 23, and they removed all the charges. So there's been no issues with the NCA. So I would like the meeting minutes to reflect what was conducted at the last meeting, but I don't feel that's fair to be quoted forever in saying there's issues with the board that I'm running when the select group of people that attend these meetings would like to see the meeting streamed, which is a comment that you would do, instead of sending emails on Sunday. Maybe you could work on a proposal to bring to the board for video streaming for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak at this time? I guess I do have one quick question. Go ahead.
I know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it.
Connie Heim, 10293 Smoke Road. When you was talking earlier about culverts and stuff that need fixed, is that one of my proposals that I've proposed several times to get that fixed so we can get all those wet spots out of our field?
The one of your concern, I know our road superintendent went out there, I think with soil and water and that, and as far as I understand, what's in our right of way is proper, that if there's anything that needs to be done, it's outside of our jurisdiction. As far as I'm aware, you have your field tile coming in, and then there's the tile, the culvert that's going across the street, and there is flow available. Maybe there's an elevation issue coming into it, but there I think the culvert is lower than the field tile, correct? Look.
In spots it is, there's broken tiles, Licking County was out there, the water and soil, and they looked at it, and there's issues, there's low tiles out in the middle of the field, and there's a bowl there now, and it can't make it to the road.
But what's getting to the road is flowing through to that creek, correct?
Once it gets to the ditch, it goes.
And that's what we looked at, and that's what they're
Because the farmer
saying.
said it's going right, the culvert isn't doing nothing to help it at all. The culvert's up too high and the water's going right under it is, and even the culvert is not even efficient.
Did they do a report, Mr. Copley, on the?
They did.
I know, I looked at it, and it did look like it was functioning, and so,
The field has a low spot in it, you can see it on the road.
and we can't do anything outside of our right of way. So as it comes in, we can only deal with that.
Is that field tiled?
Yes. Now, they say that creek needs cleaned out. It's got there where the culvert, it is so full of stuff that it can't even hardly get through. When there's rain, it just goes everywhere, floods everywhere. So the culvert, whatever that issue, it's not doing the job at all. I don't know if the creek needs cleaned out or what, but it's been a problem for a few years.
Zach Creek, do you know anything about that, Mr. Copley?
Yeah, but from the township, from the township's right away, it's clean all the way up to the fence line and it goes to the private property owner. So it'd be up to the private property owner or Lincoln County to get involved in cleaning that.
Did the farmer come and talk to you? He did, didn't he?
I talked to him a couple of years ago. I talked to him this past year. I talked to him probably 3 years in a row, and they want me to dig up the road and lower the whole street culvert because he can't get the drainage right. I mean, the culvert's there and it's been there for years and it's working fine. The field has a low spot in it and he needs to rework his dirt. That's basically what he's done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you. You're welcome to stay. I don't see us taking any action after the executive sessions. I will move to go into executive session, Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, to consider the employment of a public employee or official. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And the time is 7:57. It'll be the 3 Board of Trustees. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
We are now in executive session. Thank you. Is there a motion to come out of the executive session
So moved.
at 8:48? Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll wait till Holly gets over to the, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
We're out of executive session. I'll move to go into executive session per Ohio Revised Code 121.22G3, conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Is there a second?
I'll second.
This will be the 3 Board of Trustees, and we'll go into executive session at 8:50. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Is there a motion to come out of?
I'll make a motion to come out of
executive
executive session.
session at 9:24. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
We are out of executive session. Okay. Let's see, are we back now to right here? Anything else to bring before the board? Trustee comments, announcements?
I do have an announcement and a comment, and I should have made it earlier when we were on the road, but it just came to me.
Okay.
We had down over on Columbia Road, the township purchased 2 speed
Yeah.
monitors.
Great.
And I know there's one down on Pike, and the second was on Columbia Road. Columbia Road was our biggest focus because there was a fatality there, and there's been several other car accidents throughout my 20 years living out here in Etna. The cars speed. I've seen cars flip over into ponds in front of that subdivisions. I've seen them head up towards Columbia Road to Refugee and go straight through that and hit up in those people's yard there, 3 or 4. And now they put the little stop signs up there with flashes, which is great. But the speed limit through there is about 40, 45. There's folks walking up down Columbia Road headed down to the shopping center. But the cars are speeding through there. Now, we had that monitor there. I know there was an issue with it, and it was pulled off to repair, but it's the monitor's gone, the stand is gone. I'd like to know where it is.
I don't know.
I have no clue. Was never told there was an issue with it. So I don't know. I did see on Pike Street today, the sheriff's deputy was in the cemetery entrance monitoring speed. So I think that's good that they're enforcing with possible tickets and that. But yeah, I have no clue.
What?
Pike Street is.
Yeah, but the one down on Columbia isn't, and that's where we have a lot of speeders through there. And like I said, we had a fatality there. His mother-in-law was killed on that high right there on Columbia Road. And you know.
When was there an issue with the device that needed to be repaired?
Oh, it's been a while ago. It's been back in January, February, March, and we had to repair it. I thought Bubba took it. One thing I know, he took it down. And after that, we didn't see it. And then we thought, okay, he took it down to repair it, and he was working with somebody for what I was told. And
Oh, it should be under
and
warranty.
it's now the pole that holds is no longer there.
Is the base there?
No, nothing's there.
Probably removed it.
Nothing's there. Yeah, because people are asking, and they're like, okay, we purchased that, and it's no longer there.
Have we, because I don't know, I think I had a casual conversation with Mr. Copley, but have we downloaded any of the data? It's not remote, right? We have to hand?
Bluetooth, I think, or plug in, but
He was trained to do that, and he was, to do that, and then he could do a report and give it to us. And we could read it under the rug.
I appreciate you bringing it to the board. It's a very good question.
It's been gone for quite a while. I mean, it's been months.
I was not aware of that. I wondered where they were because I agree Columbia Road is one that needs to have it. So,
Yeah.
well, let me get with him tomorrow and see what we get an answer.
Appreciate it.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Mr. Evans?
yeah, as far as public comments, I want to address a statement that was made by Mr. Davis. I stand firm in that there were issues with the NCA of no public comments are on the agenda, that they don't want to hear from the public. That's been something that was addressed and talked about last year by others too. And regarding the overdue balance, he had asked why I didn't just call them. Well, a quick email is pretty easy to respond to. I wasn't looking for anything, but when I was looking for road pavement information, because again, everything isn't consolidated in an area, I did come across 2 notices of overdue balance over a period of time. So I simply inquired, then searching further, I found the answer to that Alexis actually responded to, not Mr. Davis, that it was just due to a fee, and I said they could disregard it. So that's not big, any kind of issue. But regarding streaming, he critiqued me for not streaming. Ms. McKee did bring in a streaming system. She has refused to try to implement that. I attempted to, spending many hours on it. It's a convoluted system. So I have tried, but we've got quite a bit on our plate here. And the big thing would be if Ms. McKee would just do it, that'd be great.
First of all, Mr. Evans.
Ms. McKee,
I'll give you
I'm
a
speaking my
response.
comments on that.
I'll give you a response.
And then trying to think, I am concerned that Mr. Hanson mentioned about privileged attorney information. I know his wife was a former administrator. I'm concerned that that kind of stuff is being shared outside of that. And again, I am frustrated, as the residents are, that the zoning issues are not being addressed more timely. So that's all I have.
Ms. McKee, I'll
yeah,
give you some
please.
response time.
Thank you. As far as us doing our live feed, we had an administrator. She was doing her job, and she was taking care of that. That's her job. I'm a trustee, that's not my job. Okay, you want it done, Mr. Evans, you pushed it, you could do it. You got rid of our administrator. Okay, you wanted her out. You made it clear. So you want us to come here and you want to stream, you're more than welcome. And for you to say there was something wrong with our system, there was nothing wrong with it. It was doing what it was supposed to do. It was, and she was using her cell phone as a hotspot. So I don't feel, it's just everything is wrong. Everything that we did is wrong, but everything you do is right. That's the problem here. That's not how a board is ran. You have to learn how to run a board. Stop blaming everybody.
I understand.
That's all you do.
I understand. I
Blame,
don't know how to
blame.
hide records. I do not know how to lock other trustees out of areas. I do understand that.
Okay, my comments are that yes, there are a lot of things that need to be improved. We're aware of that. But we don't have an administrator, and trying to thrust everything on one or two trustees or saying, well, you need to get the streaming system, and in a negative context, as I said earlier, is counterproductive. It's about working together as a team, and we are part-time. And I think part of our job is to communicate to the community when they have frustration, because I deal with it firsthand, talking to residents. Well, what are you going to do? Well, we're doing the best we can with the resources we have now. Now, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. There's all kinds of areas for room for improvement. But constantly pointing those out in a negative context doesn't get the job done at the end of the day. In fact, it creates more acrimony. It creates more stress. There's nothing wrong with constructive criticism. There's nothing wrong with pointing out, hey, we missed this, we need to do that. But I just hope that there's a more collegiate approach to that. So as far as streaming, I did have a resident ask me recently. But that's another item on the plate that we as a team are going to have to work to resolve. And I'm not going to push that on Ms. McKee. I'm not going to push it on you, Mr. Evans. But this attitude of, well, we're going to push it back on somebody else and force them to, we will work collaboratively to try to do that. But I will tell residents, that system wasn't perfect. It worked. I agree. I think there could be some improvements, but I want to find the solution of how we get that accomplished. And I think we're still trying to find our way with our staff and with training. But to constantly say, well, you got to do this today and you got to have that done by tomorrow and this has to be done and that has to be done. It takes a reliance on all the staff, the board of trustees, and many, 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 many outside agencies. So I've heard some critical comments here tonight. I'm more than willing to work on those and address those going forward. But I hope we have a little more empathy and appreciation for what everybody on the board and our employees are doing. Yes. You are correct, Mr. Evans. There's a lot of things to take care of. But a lot of these things didn't happen overnight. And it is going to take time. And I have sent some emails like on the issue of the union and the handbook. So I hope you too take my suggestions. If you've got lists of things, bring them forward and we'll incorporate them. But again, I do want to reiterate, there's only so many hours in a day. And we have part-time employees, and so we'll continue to get better, and we'll continue to find the right kind of people that we want here to be part of the team here in Etna Township. But it has to be a more cooperative and collegiate approach, in my opinion.
Just briefly on that with the list, I have provided a list. I've provided a list for the outside zoning firm. I was asked again to send it. I think I've sent it 3 times. Again, none of those have been addressed. So that is the frustration. I never expected anything instantly. I think I've been very patient for over 4.5 months. Again, the Indeed listing just went live yesterday, 4.5 months after we lost that position. There needs to be a serious effort in filling these positions which are causing additional work, and to say that we can't put something on one trustee to do, well, tonight, quite a bit has been put on me, and I get it done. Ms. McKee has given up parks. The only other thing besides the Jed Z And I think she has a duty to perform some stuff
Well, okay.
in a system that she brought in.
Okay, Mr. Evans, I've heard enough of you going back and forth, so we're going to conclude the remarks at this time. It's the same broken record, day after day, meeting after meeting. We can't correct everything that's happened in the past, so let's move forward. Is there a motion to
I'll
adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkle?
Yes,
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
thank you. We stand adjourned at
Is this your late?
9:37.
I think 10.